Everyone. I'm Erica Mueller, and I am the host for the Ayurvedic Association of Canada Thursday night webinars. And I have a fabulous guest this evening who is also a graduate of the doctoral program at Kerala with me. And so Vincent's going to give a presentation on Jyotish astrology. Um, he's been involved with Jyotish for probably 15 years, Vincent. Would that be correct?
Um, 15 years intensively, the last 15 years, but I started Jyotish in 1975 in India, so
Right.
like 50
So
years
Vincent's
ago.
been all over the world, being in ashrams and studying in different places. So he has a very interesting and colorful past. I use the word colorful very openly.
Yes.
So I will turn my video off, Vincent, and I will hand it over to you. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'm so grateful for everyone for joining us tonight. Uh, it gives me the chance to do what I love the best, and that is share uh, the joy of Jyotish and particular medical astrology with interested parties. So I'm going to do that this evening, I hope. And I really wanted to stress that I've sat through a lot of presentations that people have given over the years, and I've been very impressed and I've learned a great deal. However, the feedback from a lot of the other audience has always been, well, I don't know what they said, but it sounded good. And that's because a lot of the presentations dug so deeply. What I want to do this evening for everyone, it's my goal that you come away with a technique. I want to leave you with something as a gift this evening, not from me, but from Jyotisha. And to do that, I'm going to take a very small part of Jyotish astrology, medical astrology in particular, that does not exist on any other place but in Jyotisha, in the teachings of Parashara, the father of all Vedic astrology. And we'll talk and meet him in a little bit. Okay. And I also wanted to say, I'm reading from my introduction here, that I'm going to focus on this one technique. Please understand that Jyotish is so big and so vast that if I feel very strongly, if I can leave you with this one thing, you can then take it further. And that's my hope, that you'll take it as far as you can. And I think you'll see the value in it very quickly. Okay. That said, while it's a snapshot, it is in no way less. It's a very profound study that you're going to, and from the very teachings of ancient astrology sources. So Parashara himself, his teachings, his writings, we'll be looking at them directly, but I've wrapped them around something that I hope will present it to you um, in the right way. So, having said that, I'm going to now uh, share my presentation with you. And I'm hoping that, yeah, okay. I know you can see it now. And so I'm going to turn to it. We're going to be talking about the Rashis. And you might ask the question, what is a Rashi? Well, a Rashi is, as you're going to see when I proceed with this, it simply means the signs. What we've all been exposed. If I asked any one of you what's your sign, you'll give me your sun sign, the sign you were born under, because everyone's familiar with the Rashis, it's with the signs themselves, for all the way from Aries through Pisces. And the the advantage to that is you'll have a platform, you'll have a basis of understanding within which we can place the techniques I'm going to be presenting throughout this presentation. Okay, but I always, as always, let me just go here to this screen. I always want to start out with sharing with you um, a way of focusing so we're all in one place. And for that, the Mangala Charanam is the best. And so I'm going to use that and invoke Lord Dhanvantara to be with us throughout the learning. Ragadi Rogan Satatanushaktan Asheshakaya Prashrutan Asheshan Aushukyamoha Ratitan Jagana Yuvapurva Vaidyaya Namastu Tasmai Shri Guruvyo Namaha Abhik Namastu. Thank you for letting me do that. Okay, why Hippocrates? I think Hippocrates was a tremendous gift to all of medicine. Modern medicine says they consider him their father, but obviously their practices are very far from what his teachings were. And we have a lot written about his teachings. He's the one who first said, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." Which is extremely profound. And as we know, that's not often the case when we go into medical practice to find that. He also said, what's written up here, a physician is without a knowledge of astrology has no right to call himself a physician. Let me explain on his behalf. He's not saying you need to be an astrologer. That's not what he's saying. What he's simply pointing out is there's so many astrological techniques in all different practices um, that you would benefit greatly for learning even a little bit about some of them. And this evening, you're going to see one, as I mentioned, is very pertinent to Vedic astrology. And so we're going to go through and do that. So the natures of the Rashis, the signs themselves. Everybody knows Scorpio is this, breaking hearts left and right, right? And Aries is headstrong and all these different things. But as what we're going to go through tonight is the nature of the Rashis as they are most significantly meant to be presented, in that they are the unconscious body of Vishnu. You'll see that in just a second. And what do I mean by unconscious? Well, they're kind of like a country in a way. They're a space. I'm going to put some definition around that, but it's kind of like you live in a country and that country has an influence on you. You'd be different if you were in China than if you were in India or if you were in Canada and the United States. In every country you go through, there's different um, cultures. And so we're going to learn that a little bit about that this evening. And I'm going to do it specifically pointing at medical nature of the Rashis, the body parts, the systems that rule them, and we're going to do some analysis and also look at um, the rulers of the Rashis. What do I mean by the rulers of the Rashis? Well, every planet rules, except for the sun and moon, rules two Rashis. The sun rules Leo, one sign, and the moon rules another Rashi, that's Cancer. But all the other planets, the seven planets used by Jyotish, they all rule two signs. And that's very relevant to what we're about to do. Okay, so this is the oldest writing of anything man has about astrology. This is Brihat Parashara's Horashastra. And Parashara was, as I mentioned earlier, the father of Vedic astrology, of all astrology. And this, as in the case of the Mahabharata, there are many teachings, is a conversation between Parashara and his best student. I'll leave it at that. And so, yeah, but I do want to qualify this by saying we lost this book thousands of years ago, a couple of thousands of years ago. And uh, Alexander probably was the cause. When a library was destroyed, we lost so much information and so much knowledge of the past. But this book was put back together by because in India we had such a strong oral tradition, we were able to reassemble a lot of it. But it is in no way to be considered complete, nor um, we think we know what's real in it and what's influences from other teachers like Jiminy, etc. But we're going to go with what we have this evening. Everything I'm about to tell you will be mostly centered on the Rashis, the signs. However, I'm going to do as much as I possibly can with the planets, but I won't have the time to go very deep. This is my teacher, Ernst Wilhelm, who is means a great deal to me, and he's written many books. This is the one I'm recommending for knowing the planets. The entire Vedic astrology community acknowledges this is probably the best book on understanding the planets that exist. Planets in Sanskrit, the words graha, and these are sutras. So sutra is just like a sewing thread, and grahas mean is the name of the planets, and because graha also means grip or holding, and the energy of the planets at times hold us in a certain condition. And that's why they are called grahas in that sense. So please look up Ernst's book and study as much as you can from him. He's on the web at vedic-astrology.org. And yeah, so much material there. Okay, Brihat Parashara. So this is the way all the old books work. Erica and I went through Astanga Hridayam, which is the work of the uh, compilations of several of the old teachers, and it goes just like this. They give you a sutra, you see the Sanskrit, then the Sanskrit is translated, and then you make what you can of it. So, what are we looking at here? Here, I'm going to go down one more. I zoomed in here. Here, Parashara is saying that the 12 signs of the zodiac in order are Aries through Pisces, and we all know them, and we'll look at them in more detail in a moment. And forgive me for rushing them in a little, but I know what's ahead of us, so I'm trying to get you to it. Um, and he's talking about in the second stanza what is the limbs of the zodiac, the Kala Purusha. Kala means time, and Purusha means the personification, what is manifested. So, time manifested, time personified, is represented in the 12 signs of the zodiac. And Parashara is further saying here that they are in the 12 signs, each of them are relative to the unconscious body part of Vishnu. Again, like a country, like a place. It's a point in space. The conscious components of Vishnu are the planets and something called the nakshastras, which are constellations. There's 27 of them, and we're not going to touch them this evening. We're going to stay just with the Rashis and the planets. And he's named here head, face, arms, heart, stomach, hip, space below the navel, privities, that's the private parts, thighs, knees, ankles, feet. And these directly coincide with Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, on through to Pisces. And we're going to look at that together. So, what is the Rashi itself? It's imperative that we have this as an understanding. Rashi literally translates to a heap of something or a clump of something. And in this case, it's space. Think of the zodiac, and I'm gonna give you more definition of that as we go. But each of the signs come by over our head monthly, and they represent a portion of space, 1/12 of a division of the circle, each one 30 degrees, although it's not physically 30 degrees. In the charts that we use, we divide the circle equally into 30 degrees to give that space to each of the signs, each of the parts of the body, the expression of time personified that Parasha is speaking of. Okay. India has had these 12 divisions for over 6,000 years. How do we know that? Well, we found the Rig Veda, and the Rig Veda has inside of it all the information, not all the information that I'm talking about from the whole presentation, but everything I've said so far. The 12 spoke wheel they speak of. Um, Another old book called the Surya Siddhanta, which is the oldest astrological written work we have, also speaks exactly of the same things. We do attribute the names Taurus, Cancer, Leo, Sagittarius to the Greeks, but they're naming them after the animals. Hence, it's called a zodiac for zoo. They've named them after the animals. And maybe they should have left it alone because many other nations had their own names for these constellations, but it is unified in this way. So we'll live with it. Okay. And um, what I want you to understand just alone from this chart or this one slide is that this heap, this movement of space, holds a consciousness to it. What holds it together? What holds it together is the consciousness of the planets. So everything from Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, all 7 planets have a rulership over that space, and what they compose themselves of influences that space, and it's vice versa. The country you live in influences you, and you living in that country has an influence. So it's a reciprocal influence between the two. And you're going to see how that works in just a minute. Uh, the zodiac, again, this is from the Rig Veda 6,000 years ago, is the path of the sun around the earth. All the planets that we're talking about move in a circle from the perspective of the earth, the way we see them. Therefore, it's shining on us the way the planets as they move from our perspective. That's why we're hit from it. So this zodiac that moves around, I had a picture of it a little earlier in the previous slide there in the corner, as those signs move around space, one changing every month, so too um, the zodiac has a timing to it. That's why we say we're moving through time. This may fascinate you. The Rig Veda and the Surya Siddhanta put that cycle at 364.2422 days. That is 1 second off what science believes it is today. And this was written 6,000 years ago. So it's very precise. And all those books that I've referred to call it the true. What they call it the true because the sun comes around to the exact same spot every time, every year for all this time. And so it's the most consistent thing in the universe that we have. So it is consciousness, it is a cosmic consciousness that moves through us and influences us as it travels. So we call it Kala Purusha, the movement of time, the 12 spoke wheel of the true. But um, I want to say that you know this and we've learned this, and so we're going to put resolution to this right here, the connection between the planets and how they move into these different signs. It is represented in somewhat artificial way, but it's an interpretation so that we can see it, we can sit it. There's many ways of presenting it. This is the Western way. So, and that's very valid. It's a very good way of looking at it. In Vedic astrology, we more look at it from the perspective of these two charts, the South Indian chart on the left here, and the North Indian chart on the right here. The South Indian chart, called the Rashi chart, starts, and I need you to see this, again, 30-degree divisions of all the signs. And it starts with Aries. Next comes, of course, Taurus, and then Gemini. I'm trying to find my mouse again. There you go. Gemini, Cancer, Leo, goes to Virgo, and all the way around to Pisces. And we're going to take this journey together and discover the parts. The North Indian part chart here does it in another way. It goes through the houses of the zodiac. So this is the first house, the second house, the third house, the fourth house. You don't need to know any of that for tonight, although it's very important. I don't have time. We don't have time. But I want you to know that it's there. I use both charts interchangeably, but the houses represent facets of life, your children, your wealth, your relationships, your job. Everything is related and overlays the zodiac signs. So the houses sit over the right over the different rashis, but what determines the first house, the second house, the different parts of your life is where your rising sign is. So I'm not belittling the sun signs at all. That it has great information, but in Vedic astrology, we are focused more so on your rising sign. What is the rising sign? If at the time you were born, you looked at the horizon that's coming up directly in the east, you will see a constellation of planets coming up. That's what the rising sign is, and therefore all astrology looks at it as the point you entered this life. Okay, Kala Purusha, Kala meaning time. So what is time? Time is karma. That's what time is. Without time, there is no karma. We have an action, and for an action to be performed, it requires time for the event to take place, and it requires time for the reaction to that event to take place. The samskara is the reaction of it. So that's the fruit of your action, the phala. I borrowed this slide from Dr. Shashira's presentation. He had a whole weekend, 18 hours, 16 hours, sorry, 16 hours to present all of this, and I'm trying to get it to you, my part in an hour, but we all acknowledge and know what karma is. But this analogy of the pool table is so right because the action of the pool cue hitting the ball determines where it hits, how, if the table is flat, what it's doing, how the balls will go in all directions. That's exactly what reaction to that initial strike is on. And we're all tied to that reaction once the strike takes place. All right. So planets, I just want to cover real quick how the planets affect the Rashis, and very quickly, planets affect the Rashi that they sit in. So if the sun is in Aries, then that effect is very strong when it occupies a sign. And as you and I later in a few minutes will be analyzing the events that are taking place in that sign, the fact that the sun's there has a tremendous effect on how that sign is doing. Also, the planets strongly affect the rashis they rule. As I mentioned, Sun rules Leo, Moon rules Cancer, and every other planet rules two signs. For instance, Venus rules Taurus for the feminine side, and it rules Libra for its masculine side. So too, Mars rules Aries, but it also rules, that's the male side, but it also rules Scorpio, which is the female side. So all the planets, except for Sun and Moon, have two rashis they affect. That plays a role, a strong role. Also, the planets strongly affect the Rashi that they are exalted in. Every planet is most comfortable somewhere in space, and that space often is not the space that they rule. Um, it's often a different space. Okay, so, and we're going to talk about it's a different sign, in other words. And planets affect uh, the planets affect the area that they're debilitated in. That's a typo. Affect the area that they're debilitated in also. What do I mean by debilitation? Like they have an exaltation above where they're very comfortable and they perform at their very maximum. There's also a space, a place where they don't do well, and that's called debilitation. They don't have a positive effect, or the effect that they have is limited in some way, debilitated in some way. And lastly, planets affect other planets according to their relationship. And this determines the planet's ability to perform, whether it's with a friend, a great friend, a neutral planet, an enemy planet, or a great enemy planet. That also affects what's going on. And I did that too quickly, but I needed to say that so that in your follow up research, when you read Ernst's book, you'll see what all that means. Okay, here we go. Aries. Of course, India has its own name, Mesha, for Aries, and the name that they use has more mystique to it. Mesha, yes, it does mean ram, but or a goat, but it really means an origin or a beginning or something starting. So it has a double meaning. All Sanskrit words have several meanings. And so Mesha means that. Just to give you an idea, I won't translate every one, but Aries rules the head. We all know that, right? But what we need to know medically is, most importantly, it is the most important sign of the entire zodiac because it rules the brain. It rules the all the different aspects of the brain, the hypothalamus, the frontal lobes, all of the amygdala, the everything that we have in our brains, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, which produce all our hormones, everything that's in our head. It really is the controlling station of our entire body and therefore of our entire life. Our the development of our brain, as we all know, is so important for us to move through time, for us to do things. And so looking at the sign of Aries, we begin to understand if there's good planets there. If there's no planet there, that's fine. There's still the ruler of Aries, which is Mars. Go look at Mars. How well Mars is doing tells you how well Aries is doing, and vice versa. They're interactive with each other. So Aries, again, is how we start our lives. Again, your very happiness depends on hormonal balance. When it's off, we get diseases, we get sickness, and then that takes precedent over everything else. So as you analyze Aries, and we are going to do that in a moment, I am going to show you example charts and we'll do it together. I want to get through three at least, and then I'll show you the charts. But um, I know you'll see and understand that planet Aries actually governs our life, ruled by Mars, and Mars is our action, our ability to act. If there's anything wrong with Aries, all our life's actions are compromised. Everything we do, everything we intend to perform and conquer in our lives, because I'm saying that because of the Mars ruling it, uh, it's important to understand will be impacted by the health of Aries. And here's the technique for the entire zodiac. When we look at the sign, and this is why it's so profound, is astrologers always look for what's your time of birth, and if you don't have it, you can't determine that important thing that I mentioned earlier called the ascendant, the lagna in Vedic astrology, the place where you entered life, lagna, where you came in. You can't determine it. You need the exact time. The lagna changes every 2 hours, but if you don't know it and you just have the signs, you can still do a tremendous amount of work with this technique. Why is because you start with Aries, you look at the health of the sign itself. From Aries, once you've determined it, it should be the first thing you address in your practice as an Ayurvedic practitioner. You first do the first sign that has problems. That's the main thing that you have to do because, like everything else, um, in the flow of illness, I don't want to use Sanskrit words. For some people may not be familiar with them, but uh, the sanchaya, the doshas are aggravating, then it flows to manifestation and different things, starts with Aries. So you've got to start here and see, is this healthy? Then you go to Taurus and you do the exact same thing to Taurus. And then you go to Gemini, number three, and you take them in turn. You don't need a lagna to use this medical astrology technique. And again, I'm going to do this with you in just, I want to get through three signs so we have enough platform, runway to go with. The next one is Taurus, Brishaba. And Taurus is the face. Again, very significant. It's you know it from the forehead and then down through the neck. The seven cervical vertebrae are all under the rulership of Taurus, which the planetary rulership is Venus of, right? Aries was Mars, this is Venus. And it's through Aries that all the senses, through Taurus, that all the senses in the face operate. So your eyes, your ears, your nose, your taste, even touch from most sensitive skin is on the lips, so all of the senses, how you get your needs met is through Aries, the mouth, right? In Ayurveda, what we eat, we consider to be the most important. We start with food because that's what we're intaking. Um, and the food comes in, it has to pass the neck, and the neck gives us, that ability to make choices. We can turn our head. It means we don't have to take food. If something you take to eat and you don't think it's good, you're going to turn your head this way to get away from it. All of this is Taurus. Taurus is the sign of how our needs are met. The tongue, if for taste, again, the mouth, but the mouth also communicates. So, tongue and mouth together, working together, are how we can speak and ask for what we want. We can communicate what it is we want to fulfill our lives. Afflicted planets or bad planets related to Taurus itself, you're not able, or your patient is not able to get their needs met. Now, Taurus is ruled by Venus, and as you know, Venus is that pleasant planet where it governs all relationships, not just your spouse or your lovers or your friends, everything, the people you work with, everything is related through Venus. Venus makes the decision. Do I like this person? Do I not like this person? It's all determined by a healthy Taurus. So if Taurus is having trouble, um, then you're having trouble in general. Taurus, again, ruled by Venus, making the right and wrong choices. How do we know? Well, we take something in our mouth, and in our mouth, which is on our face, we chew, we break down the food. And then the food breaks down so we're able later to assimilate it. The microbiome in the mouth is pre-digesting all the, if these things aren't working, we're not going to be healthy. Our needs, what we need in life, is not going to be met. If there's problems with Taurus, bad planets, incompatible planets, the moon is exalted in Taurus. So this is its highest place. And in its exaltation, it's able to get its needs met fully because the moon is reciprocal. In Aries, the sun ruling it, it's always outgoing, it's pushing. So you can see the difference between the two. Aries, meaning the moon, meaning our needs, this is where we get them met. This is how we find our happiness. Unpleasant events in this sign destroy that. Here's the third one, and then we'll go to an example. Gemini. Gemini, Parashara tells us, is the arms, but it's more than just the arms. If you outstretched your hands like this, it's the first four thoracic vertebrae. So it's the arms, the shoulders, the hands, the upper lungs, the clavicle, all of these different things, the scapula in your back, they all represent how we work, getting things done, defending ourselves, interacting with the world. Gemini is about moving through the world successfully, having dexterity in your hands, having the ability to play an instrument or do surgery or all the things that people say he's very handy at plumbing. All those things that you perform because you have a healthy Gemini. Afflicted planets indicate an inability to accomplish the things you want to accomplish. And from Aries through Taurus to here, everything we're talking about is internal. Somebody may be highly accomplished, and you may look at Gemini and you may say, boy, he's highly accomplished, but it doesn't, I've got bad signs here. It's because psychologically, every one of these, in addition to physical, has the psychological. In Taurus, I didn't get my needs met. Here, it's I don't feel like I can accomplish a lot in life. I don't feel comfortable with what I've done. I feel like a failure, even though they may have accomplished a great deal. This is the result of bad planets. All the signs have both, again, anatomical and psychological counterparts to them. And this sign is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is all about um, skill, doing things. So a musician, when they're performing, it's under the auspices of Venus. But as they're learning their instrument, They're doing what? They're using their hands to learn the instrument. If someone's learning surgery, you're training your hands. It's a very, very difficult skill to acquire. All those skills are ruled by Mercury, and Gemini is the place where the condition of Mercury counts. Again, if you look at this and there's no problem here, but you know the person is not accomplishing things, and the next slide I'm going to do this with you, is not accomplishing things and you're wondering why, look at Mercury, the ruler. Mercury might be having trouble, probably will be having trouble somewhere else, and maybe he's together with Mars. That's a terrible combination. Mars wants to do, and Mercury wants to think and consider, and let's look it up in the book, you know. And Mercury's about laws and order and government, but Mars ignores those things. Mars just charges, right? He's the general. So you can see here how this works. Let's put it into practice now together. Oh, I wanted a fourth one. I guess I added this last minute as I was telling Erica. Cancer. Cancer is important because Cancer, Karkata, is the heart. And it starts at starts at the lower second four thoracic vertebrae, and it goes to the bottom of the ribs, to the bottom of the sternum, really, and it holds the heart. It's just here. It also, as Gemini was the upper lungs, these are the lower lungs. I'm going to differentiate them for you. If you're in, that's why I put the slide here. If you're in Gemini and you want to do something, what's the first thing you do? You go, and you put the air all in the upper lungs because you're doing a Mercury event, you're doing a Gemini event. But when you're working from the heart and you're talking to someone and you're saying, I love you, you're in the lower lungs where the heart can communicate, that middle four vertebrae center. Cancer rules this sign. So once again, the softness of Cancer, the emotions, very much connected. And even in the chart, I won't jump back to the chart like I had planned, but there's a connection between the two physically on the chart. They're across from each other, Rashi aspected, we call it. The Rashis are aspecting the emotions because the emotions are tied to our needs. So these signs are where Cancer is exalted are closely related, exaltation and rulership. Okay, so Cancer feels and Cancer reacts and according to how it feels. In this sign, Jupiter is exalted, and Jupiter is Sanskrit name for Jupiter is Guru, meaning heavy. They gave Guru the name 6,000 years ago, yet they how did they know it was so heavy a planet? But it's so heavy, Jupiter's so heavy that everyone thinks all the planets go around the sun. They don't. Jupiter's influence is so powerful. It's such a big planet that as the sun is spinning, Jupiter's also pulling it. So instead of going around a point, Jupiter and the sun are going around the barycenter. That's what it's called. It's a little circle that one's pulling the other, so they never quite center. So it's kind of like if you've ever seen, I can explain it. If you've ever seen a top spinning, it never stays still. It's kind of going around, not a point, but a little circle, and it gets larger and larger. The significance of understanding that is that Jupiter is your inspiration. Jupiter is um, when you feel something that you really want to do it and it makes you, it inspires you. I'm going to start Ayurveda, and you dedicate your life to it. That's that spark, right? And that spark is essential to you when you feel it, starting it and doing it, because that spark will fade. So you need to establish yourself in it. When I came to astrology, I sat in it for years. I couldn't do anything else. Other people would go out. I just studied astrology because that spark was so strong. If you follow it, it increases. If you ignore it, it leaves. Guru is not pushy. You know, he's going to let you come to him, but he's always looking for you. He holds the light there. Mars is in its fall in Cancer, so it's debilitated. But Cancer is so amazing a sign because of its emotions, its understanding of love and doing, that even though Mars is debilitated there, that means it's not in its full power. It's okay because think of this: Mars acts sometimes irrationally, and Cancer is emotions. So if we acted on our emotions, that might not be good, right? You got to calm down. Well, the fact that Mars is in the sign of Cancer, it kind of gets a chance to say, I can relax. I'm in my timeout space. So people with Mars and Cancer are usually very warm-hearted. They don't lose their temper very often. They don't act on emotions because Mars is too intelligent. It's not going to act emotionally. It is going to react in a way that it thinks is righteous, but it's not going to react. It's going to feel when Cancer gets emotional that, yeah, but that's just an emotion. I'm not going to act on it. I'm just going to relax here. So, um, and if you want to know if something is true to you. Everyone says, listen to your heart. That's true. But what they're really saying is, what part of your lungs are you breathing from when you talk about it? Are you up here, like, I want to do this? Or are you in your lungs, your bottom part of your lungs, where you talk, where you speak love, where you recite poetry, where you sing from, right? So, um, all very important. Um, I hope this is really getting through because we're going to take a look at it now once I get my mouse over there. Oh, I went two down. Here we go. Okay, so here's our first example. So please follow me. Here's the four signs that we looked at. We looked at Aries, we looked at Taurus, we looked at Gemini, and we looked at Cancer. So this is one of my patients. And the first thing I see is the sun, very emotional, is not in its sign of exaltation in Taurus, it's in the sign of Aries. So I I see a lot of things for this person is going to start on a from an emotional need first. I know that psychologically right off from seeing this. I also know that um, hormonically, you know how when someone's emotional for a long time, the hormones might react. If there's fear, then moon is not fear, but if there's fear, they will produce hormones to aid you with a, a parasympathetic reaction, right? Sympathetic fight, flight. So the moon is going to keep them calm down. It's going to be more emotional, and they may be very, uh, they may be very sensitive to everything that they start in life because Aries starts you're starting your life. Um, they may have been coddled as a child, but if you're trying to start something, let's say you're trying to start a business or you're trying to make the soccer team, you can't be emotional. You've got to take what's going on, right? So you begin to understand where this patient is starting from in life, how they may have been quieter as a child as they started school. Everything that they've started from the perspective of the with an emotional influence in there. But I also have to look at Mars. And Mars is sitting over here in the sign of Aquarius. So I look at its condition. Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. Um, I should say this so everyone's clear as to what you're looking at. The software I use and was written by my teacher is called Kala. Kala time, Kala karma. All right. So, and it's full of tools. I used to spend hours and hours trying to do all the math for a chart. And then you'd see the person and something wouldn't match. So you'd go back and say, oh no, my math was wrong here. And now we have software, and this is why you're in the greatest time of all to do astrology, that does all of that for you. So you know mathematically everything is exactly where it should be. What Kala's done in the center part of the southern chart, it shows you the relationship, the dignity in this column. So as I mentioned earlier in the other slide, Sun is in neutral dignity here. Moon is in the sign of a friend. Mars and Moon are friends, but Mars is in the sign of an enemy. Mars and Saturn don't get along. So again, I'm looking at Mars from this, and I see that Mars has a little trouble here. It's weakened by the fact that it's stuck in the sign of a friend. So yeah,
Vincent,
so yeah.
it's me. Can you tell me at what moment in time this this configuration um, was from in your client's life, like
It's his birth chart
the birth chart?
at the
Okay.
moment he was born. Yeah, we're working with the birth chart. We want to know what they came into this life as. I'm going to go a little, thank you for calling me because I see what's going on with the time. So I'm just going to skip along really quickly here and show you two more things. Um, Taurus has no planet in it, but Taurus is ruled by Venus. So we need to look at Venus. And Venus is with Venus's friend, Mercury. So if I look at Venus here, we can see that it's with a friend. That's what the F represents. And so it's in good dignity. And so I'm not worried about him getting his needs met. However, if I look at the um, sign of Gemini, now I see two things. I see Saturn here, and that's what you kind of want to look at first. Saturn's always um, always a big consideration. And Saturn together with Rahu, this is the north node. Um, I don't have time to tell you that I had planned on telling you the mythology behind it, but in any case, Rahu and Saturn together always represents, when they're in the same sign, fear, trouble, delay, um, spontaneous things. And this is in the sign of hands. So when I first saw the chart and my client came in, I said to him, did you ever break an arm? He said, I broke my hand. And so I said, yeah, it's ruled by Gemini. I know he had to have some difficulty with his hand, but what will fascinate you the most is in our conversations, because I, like Erica, we're therapists, Ayurvedic therapists. He tells me about his never being satisfied with his work. Now he doesn't want to go to work. He feels he's not accomplishing anything in his life. He's not moving forward. You see that ability. And so, of course, I now have to look at Mercury down here to see how that is. But to get verification, I'll say something else in a moment. But to let you know, when you see this kind of configuration, there's a big problem here on both a physical and a psychological level that I have to work through with this client. His hand still gives him problems. He favors it. And so I'm trying to work with that. And also, he's not feeling like he's accomplishing anything in life. And once again, last thing we looked at was Cancer. Here, Cancer has the exalted Jupiter in it. So his emotions, remember, Cancer's ruled by the moon, and the moon's um, in Aries here. So he's extremely emotional. And Cancer expands that. And I feel that he needs really to try to use his hands to help others, to work from his heart. And we will resolve much of this. So I know our time. Can I keep going? I don't know how you want to go from here,
Vincent,
but we made it at least.
just hold on. Why don't you go for another half an hour?
Okay.
Okay. And if anybody wants to leave, please do. I just want to keep recording this until for at least another half an hour. So you can leave if you'd like to, or you can stay around with us.
And I'll stay as long as you like and answer any questions that we need to do. Okay.
I definitely know
I
that
hope
about you.
everyone, if I can just know how we're doing about the information that's being presented, could we just have people type into the chat box? So I can hear from Erica. I can't see the chat box, but I know that I'm on track with what you would hope to gain from this evening.
Well, for me, I'm loving it, Vincent. Yeah, you got a thumbs up. This is
Okay.
interesting. Thank you.
Yes, I
Okay.
love it too. It's great stuff.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank you, Laura.
Very
Thank,
good. Good
thank you,
stuff.
Barry. Thank you. Okay, I'll keep going then. All right.
and the biggest thing for me, Vincent, is I've as you have been. I've been to a few Jyotish webinars, and you make it accessible and understandable from a layman's point of view. So thank you for that.
Thank you for saying that because I think that's my role. And uh yeah, and that's exactly what I really want to do for everyone is and I know that as you see these signs, it's an opening for you and you can take it from here. Look at all the different systems. We only touched a few of the systems, especially in Aries. And you'll see a moment in Leo. So many organ systems, so many things. You can look into it and you can see what they do. Let's keep going and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, the next sign is Leo, Simha. And um, Parashara calls it the stomach, but it's really the entire abdominal cavity. So it goes from the bottom of the ribs to the top of the hips. And yeah, from the sternum and down, the last four thoracic vertebrae. And it's the body part of energy. It is the most vital area, aside from the heart, the most where all the organs are. There's the liver, there's the stomach, there's the gallbladder, there's the kidneys, there's the upper part of the digestive tract, right? So the whole body energy chronically, what the Chinese call dantian. Um, some people spell it with a T, but the Chinese spell it with a D. Dantian, where Tai Chi comes from, where your pranayama comes from. This is the center of it. It's the majority of the vital organs live here. No planet is exalted nor debilitated in Leo. That should tell you that it's such an important part that when there's problems here, then you really have something troublesome going on. But Sun, Mars, and Jupiter are really happy here because this is your kingdom. When every time you see a king, they've got that big belly, right? This is where the king lives. But even Tai Chi, I teach Tai Chi. I've taught it for 30 years, and um, that dantian becomes very strong over time, very full of chi. They all center and ground from this area right here. Planets in this area that are afflicted, we call it afflicted. If they're debilitated, not by debilitated, I mean that Leo, the sun, which rules Leo, is debilitated in another planet, and that would be Aries, where it gets debilitated. It's exalted in Aries, and it's debilitated in Libra. Sorry, did I say Leo? Libra, which is seven apart. On any planet is that's exalted someplace, seven signs from it, it will be debilitated. So if the sun is debilitated, you're going to have trouble in this area. And all I can say is you it really needs to be looked at, and all of the organ systems in the body really need to be explored and understood so that you can help your client here. And you'll be able to determine it by how the planets are doing. The planets also have earth, water, fire, air, or ether elements, means we have Vata, Pitta, Kapha right here in front of us. And the fire planets we all know, and the water planets we all know, and the earth planets we all know. So that's why I chose this subject, because we have so much information about it. You can root yourself here. And again, don't need a rising sign. Just look at their chart and what's going on. All right. And Leo's very, very powerful. Um, I want to try to again to get the next four. Okay, Virgo. Um, Virgo is,
Vincent,
yes,
Barry just asked a question if you'd suggest belly breathing, etc.
yes. And this is where, when you're doing all of your recommendations for pranayama, this is where you're working in Leo. But yes, belly breathing is an essential way to ground your entire body and let you know you're okay. Because when that fight, flight, sympathetic state comes up, you're all up in the upper lungs and you've shut off everything else. So belly breathing lets you know you're okay. Everything's good. That's why they rightfully tell you take 3 deep breaths, and that's into the Leo area. Does that answer the question? Kind of. Okay. And so,
There's one more question.
Yes.
please.
It says, what Jyotish information can do for a patient, pros and cons? I mean, I think you're explaining that, but I'm not, can you understand the question? I'll read it again. What
I thought it
Jyotish,
was what I was doing. Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
think
did too.
the whole presentation is answering that question.
Right.
This is what it does for each sign.
Does that answer your question, Alice?
Just thinking how I can tell a patient, for example, that they have like, let's see, lumbar pain or something. So I say,
Mm.
okay, just go and do your birth chart, or what I can suggest to the
I,
Jyotish,
I, I seldom share the chart with the patient
Oh, I see.
when I'm working in this way, because the chart, as we know in Ayurveda, when we do our examinations, we're looking for confluence. One problem, one symptom isn't going to tell us much.
Exactly.
Everything that you're learning here, you need to find confluence for. I can find confluence for this 30 different places in the chart, but that's not anywhere near as good as going to my patient and talking with my patient and finding where what I'm seeing in them has confluence with what I'm seeing in the chart. Does that make sense?
Yes,
So you
yes,
don't depend only on the chart. You let it lead
exactly.
you to an area where you can examine, like for
Mhm.
instance, Leo, so complicated, so many organ systems. We've got to find out from the client, do they have gallstones, for instance, which is ruled by the Leo, right? It's in its era. Do they have kidney issues?
Mhm.
Are they having an ulcerated stomach? You know what area to look at. but you don't know what's happening until you deal with the patient. Now, as I said, I have many other areas in the chart with medical Vedic astrology, Vedic medical astrology, where I can look to get more confluence. But that is the key. Um, to answer your question, you have to go back to the client and verify it. And that's why I don't show them the chart until we're down the road a ways, so that they see, yes, this is reflecting what we've been working on and it's improving.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes.
You're welcome. Okay, and yeah,
Gary just made a statement saying, so it's just another tool to help with diagnosis.
absolutely. That's why I said it at the outset. It's a technique. It's something you can use right away, but it's one of many tools that should be like we got to look at the tongue. We got to feel the pulse, right? You can't skip anything. But it's one more thing that lets you know, hey, I better listen to this when I take their pulse. I better listen to the liver because Leo's got a lot of problems, and so it's one more thing, Erica, and this is what I meant by I want to leave everyone who's here with an understanding of how this could help you be that one more technique. Okay, so Virgo is the hip. What it really is from the top of the hip bone, if you put your hand there, to right where the top of the femur enters. You can move your knee back and forth and feel it. It's a very small area, but as you're going to see, extremely important. And we can talk days on even one sign. And I strongly recommend that as a practice, you take one sign and contemplate it for an entire day. Look up all the medical systems, et cetera, et cetera. But for Virgo, um, it's the lumbar vertebrae that determines it. So the lumbar vertebrae is only that 5 vertebrae, right? So it's small, and it's a small area right across. But listen to this. The intestinal significance of this is it rules assimilation. So, of everything we talked about until now, all the needs that were trying to be met, all the work that they did, all of the food that they ate, can they assimilate it? Or are they going to have trouble ingesting it? Are they going to produce ama? Right? That's what we're looking at. It's Virgo that decides what's good and what to ignore. That's what the sign of Virgo, that's why the twins, you have the harp, the sign of the harp, and you have the sign of the male with the female with the harp and the male with an axe, which is what's good, what's bad to you. You know what? It's Virgo that decides, but Virgo is ruled by Mercury. And Virgo is unique in that it's a very friendly sign. In other words, Virgo can clearly see this is good about this person, and they can clearly see, but they have these faults. But Virgo ignores the faults, it's its downfall. Virgo always has problems because, oh, I see the good and the good's worth it. So I'm going to keep them in my life, even though it's destructive for them to be in that situation, even though it's destructive for them to be with that person, even though it's destructive for them to continue with that habit, they see the good side of it and they ignore the bad side of it. That's the bad part. So if Virgo's got problems, Mercury is exalted, or Mercury is the ruler and exalted, so it's very powerful. But Venus is debilitated here. Why would Venus be debilitated in such a friendly sign? Well, the reason is this is very, very important to understand. Venus is um, it rules all relationships. Your relationship with everything in the world. Your business relationships, And it's the scales. It rules Libra. So Venus knows on a scale, is this good for me or if this is bad for me? If I should um, if I should go from, I love mangoes, but mangoes are 5 miles up the road, and I don't have a car, so I got to walk 5 miles to get mangoes. But I love them. But just in my backyard, there's apples. What am I going to eat? I'm going to eat mostly apples, right? Because it's 5 miles down the road. So this is what Venus knows how to do. Venus knows what's good and good for me and what's bad and not bad for me. And a good Venus in your chart will always lead you through those relationships. But in Virgo, Virgo's thinking everybody's good. Everything is good. Oh, yes, they have bad parts, but I don't want to get rid of them. That's why Virgos are hoarders. If you look at Virgo's garage, it's full of stuff they should have sold a long time ago, but they didn't, So, um, because Venus was debilitated, it's not strong in another place. It's kind of sleeping here. But by the same token, everybody loves Virgos because they're nice. Um, Now, Mars in this sign is a disaster because Mars is sitting here, want to take action, and it's in the country, the vibration of Virgo, and it's very frustrated because it can't take action because Virgo doesn't see that I need to tell this person I need more space, or I need to leave this job, it's killing me, or I got to break this habit, or I'm going to get very sick. Do you see how you can tell all these things simply by in Virgo seeing a problem, seeing a debilitated Mars, seeing Venus there? Venus will tell you they can't say no to people when someone says to them, "Can you help me with this?" Virgo's answer is almost always yes, if Venus is here, because its ability to weigh it is not powerful enough. It's debilitated. Clear? Okay. And I want to keep going because I promised you. Libra is the next one. And Libra is if you take, as I said up here, uh, the top of the femur, where we moved our knee back and forth, and then run down the middle of the legs as a triangle, the crease in the legs of the triangle where all the lymph nodes run. And that area is ruled by Libra. And it includes the bladder, the rectum, the internal reproductive organs for a woman, the ovaries, prostate for male, the scrotum, and the coccyx, the tailbone. This is such a small, it's probably the smallest area, yet it's probably one of the most very powerful ones because the bladder and the rectum hold what is no value to us, but it holds it. Why? Because if you have this, because of these things, you know when to release it. One of my favorite teachers back at the California College of Ayurveda, who Barry and I know very well, Mary Thompson, she always said we broke our agreement with nature in that we eat all of its food, but we don't release the waste like we're supposed to. So we're pollinating what we have to pollinate and fertilize what we have to fertilize because we hold them in these areas and then we put them in the toilet bowls. But this is where our contract is. This is where things are supposed to return to nature. But there's nothing we can do about that. Venus rules Libra, as I said earlier, and Venus is the planet of all relationships. But again, the planet of business, meaning it knows a good deal and a bad deal. So Venus, as I said, is a relationship planet, and the color of Venus is green. So it really is trying to fulfill all its obligations. I owe this. And that's why maybe many of us have gardens and all those sort of things and spend thousands of dollars on fertilizer. Who knows? But uh, it's it's the ability to know how to correctly let go of things that psychologically gets impacted by a bad Leo. And Virgo, we said the same thing for, but that's only when Venus is there. Otherwise, yeah, you're better at knowing. Venus can tell you to let go here because this is the sign of Libra where it's very strong. It rules it. And lastly, the sign that's debilitated is Saturn because I mean it's exalted. Sorry. Saturn is exalted. It's debilitated in Aries. It's exalted here in Libra because Saturn rules waste. Saturn rules the lymphatic system. Saturn rules getting rid of useless things, moving on, right? Not as a decision, but just you no longer matter. Go. It's not like Venus who's weighing it. Understand the difference. This is good. This is bad. Saturn, bad. Bad, go. It's just Saturn separates. That's what it does. Western astrologies and Vedic astrology are completely in line there. Saturn, and also it delays. Saturn will hold you back, hold things back for a very, very long time. And we hold things in our bladder and in our large intestine and all of that. The other thing I want to stress here for this sign, and it's very important, is Libra also rules the coccyx, means the tailbone. And even though it's a tiny little bone, its signification is balance in our lives. Like if you've ever seen a monkey or how a bird flies, the tail is always intricate. Look at a squirrel, intricate to their balance. And if they move one way, the tail's doing something. The tail's always telling you a story. In Libra, if you have bad planets, it could be that your balance in life is off. Something's out of balance in your life. Okay. And I'm going fast because I want to get in. Scorpio is the private parts. It means everything that's external and the anus, everything that's external. And it's these external parts are the only parts that are not protected by muscle and bone. They just are there, right? And so it represents the marika, the exposure, the unprotected parts, the vulnerable organs that we have, the covered parts, everything that we need to keep covered for protection because they have no other protection. Okay, planets that are there's no planets that are exalted in Scorpio, and the moon, which meets our needs, is only exalted in the first 3 degrees of the 30 degrees of Scorpio. So 27 degrees of Scorpio, the moon is not debilitated in. Okay? And why is it debilitated only in the first 3 degrees? Is because the moon is about getting our needs met. And those external organs are not truly going to get our needs met. That's important to understand that they are the parts where we use them for procreation, we use them for their purpose, but it's a short time and it will be very good for the short term. It's a great experience. However, you you can't cling to it because it's never going to meet your needs. It's never going to bring you where you need to be. It's for that quick once in a while. And um, if we all think about, and I know we're all thinking about Scorpio relationships, they dive in deeply, they have a very intense time, and all too often Scorpio moves on and breaks a heart, right? So it's the way Scorpio operates, and they can't help it. It's just how things go through. Now, if it's a planet of Mars, therefore you understand why Mars can takes action and leaves when it's ready to leave, separates when it separates. But if there's good planets in it, then Scorpio can be wonderful. It's very intelligent. It's dutiful. Um, one of the laws of our nature is procreation, and you do that through Scorpio. So it's important to see its good parts as well. And I'm going to try to do one more, at least to the 30 minutes that Erica was kindly granted me here. And I love this one, Sagittarius, the butt, right? Sagittarius is the gluteus maximus, the muscle of the body. It is the strongest muscle in our entire body. And everybody loves a Sag, right? So, um, yeah, it's very useful. In my teacher always tells the story of, because he lives in Arizona. There's a race in Arizona where one's a 50-mile race, man against a horse, and there's a 100-mile race, also man against a horse, and the horse has a rider. The man against the horse wins every time by a good distance in the 50-mile. In the 100-mile, man against the horse wins by a spectacular amount. Why is because our glutes don't get tired compared to other mammals. Our glutes are tremendously powerful pound for pound, right? When you work all day, you don't feel the pain in your glutes. You feel it in your thighs. The next part we're going to talk about, the thighs are Capricorn, poor Capricorn. Your thighs always hurt when you sit down, but the glutes don't hurt unless you've really done it like 100-mile walk, and I have. Then yeah, the glutes hurt, and that's just too much. But it's all about, on a psychological level, your ability to endure. Good planets in Sagittarius mean that you are able to stay the course. Just like that archer that shoots the arrow and sees nothing else but going to get that goal no matter what they go through, they'll go over anything. Sagittarius means, if a strong, good, healthy Sagittarius means that you can keep going, you can do the long. I can tell you that Erica and I are in 10 years now that we're finally getting at the end of this long journey. Glutes have to be very strong to do that, right? So it allows you to keep going. Bad planets, or it's ruled by Jupiter having trouble, then you can't stay the distance. That patient is unable to continue, and you'll know that. Ernst, I'm just going to read, enables us to understand the reaction we'll experience in our lives based on the purpose we pursue. That's only understood through Sagittarius. Why he said that, and he's so brilliant. Ernst is brilliant about everything. I love him. But why he said that is, if your Sagittarius is not good, your purpose in life, your understanding of your purpose in life is foggy. You don't see it. You don't understand it. So as a therapist, You need to help them understand what it is they have to do. You need to help them to work through their purpose and see that that is what you need to pursue in order to get your happiness, because this is the dharmic side. Jupiter is the dharmic house, right? So if we don't fulfill our dharma, the reason why we came in any system, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to feel fulfilled. You have to do that. Right? And so that's what you find in Sagittarius. That's where it's the strongest. Okay. Do you want me to keep going? I
Yeah.
can't hear.
You have one more?
One more? Yeah. I
Yeah.
have. Actually, there's, well, yeah, the next one's fun. Poor Capricorn. Capricorn, if you've ever seen the symbol for Capricorn in the West, I know my new friend that Erica introduced me to tonight will laugh, because it's a sign of a half fish or a half reptile, and the other half is something else. It's kind of odd because it's the thighs, and the thighs, as they from the top of your legs down to the knee, and the top half of your knee, um, that's where you feel the pain, as I said. So Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is the Shudra of the, for those, it's the worker, the one who's taking care of the garbage disposals and all of that. So, and it's always working, and it wants to rest. Saturn rules west. It's okay, I did enough work. Saturn does it, it knows it when it has to work, and it works very hard, and it does what it has to do very hard, but it also knows when to rest. And that's the positive, one very positive and important part of Saturn's responsibility, that is to get us to rest. And a good Saturn will do that. The goat, of course, is climbing the mountain, and they have that tremendous balance, and they just keep trying to go up and up and up. But they do get tired, and they can stand in that position, but they do need to learn to rest. For us spiritually, Capricorn's problem is, and why their thighs hurt, is because they believe they are the doer. They think, I'm doing this. I'm climbing this mountain. I'm doing this job. And therefore they get exalted. And that's why Mars is exalted here. But Jupiter is debilitated here, because Mars, being so young, thinks he's doing, he's the doer. But Jupiter, so he's exalted, he loves it. But Jupiter understands and is very unhappy. Why am I doing this? Why am I not resting? Why am I not realizing that God is the doer? Spirit is always doing, and I'm not the doer. I'm just playing my role. So I don't have to take on all this responsibility. Capricorn's always taking on tons of responsibility and then complaining about how hard it is. It's a Saturnian point of view. But Jupiter knows we're not the doers. There's no purpose in being the doer because you're not. But you have to believe you are, or you won't keep going. And that's where Saturn and that's where Capricorn shine, is that a good Capricorn will understand I'm not the doer, but they'll also understand, but I have to believe there's a purpose to this. I have to believe that I need to put this energy into it. So someone who has a poor Capricorn, and that patient of mine has a very poor Capricorn, that we were looking at earlier, only then will you realize that I have to do this, but I can do it in a balanced way. I can do it as God's mission. I can do it as what my purpose is in life. Does that make sense? Two more real quick. The next is the calves and the shanks. Did you ever bang your shanks, your what are they? The name of the bone. Forgive me for forgetting it here, but the front part of the bone, nothing hurt. We ignore the lower part of the leg, the shins. That's what I'm looking for. Your shins, you ignore them. It's like they don't exist until you hit them, you bang them, then you curse everything in the room, right? Well, that's Aquarius. It it works and it works and it works. Aquarius, Aquarius is always starting NGOs, and they're doing all of these ruler things, and they're take a very cosmopolitan approach to life. And there's a lot of difficulty, and they keep moving until the time that an injury comes or a hurt comes or they're sued or something happens bad, and then they notice the work and the um, the negative side of what it is they're doing, right? They're an NGO, but they're sued, or something happens and a war breaks out and they lose people. Whatever it is, this is the sensitive side. And it's funny what the name is, Kumbha, if you think of Kumbaya when we sing. But it perfectly describes Aquarius. But yeah, Saturn is in Militricona in Aquarius. So it's very highly exalted here. And a good Aquarius has you understanding what you're doing and where the balance sits. And when you see someone way out of balance with regard to what they're doing, it's the Aquarius that's suffering. And the last, I went the wrong way, right? I did Capricorn already. I'm going the wrong way. Okay, hang on. There we go. Pisces. Last one, Pisces is the feet. It's the beginning, and this is the second most important sign of the entire, in Vedic astrology, of the entire zodiac, because for all of astrology, the only parts are the beginning and the end. Those are the two most important parts, right? It's how you got to start and how you ended it. The rest is the story. But and we all love a good story, but it's the head is the furthest from the ground and the feet is on the ground. It's the journey. The feet are the journey. And in someone's chart, if you want to look at overall, is this person going to succeed? You look at medically, are they going to get healed? Are they going to look at the first Aries and the last Pisces? And it's going to tell you the beginning and the end. They may have 100 things going on between Pisces and Aries, or Aries and Pisces, but they're going to come out of it. They're going to make it through. And that's what you importantly need to see in the sign of Pisces. This is very abbreviated. Venus is exalted in Pisces. So that's where the real joy comes, the reward for the whole journey. It's the last sign. It's the natural 12th house of the zodiac. So it's the wisdom of having gone all the way around the zodiac and doing it on the earth, planted in the dirt, walking with your feet, standing on the world. Did you know that there's 10,000 nadis? In Marma, we learned 10,000 nadis on the bottom of your feet, more than anywhere else. So a good Pisces makes the whole journey worth it, gives you the Venus reward, especially if Venus is there. That's as fast as I could do it. I hope it wasn't too much.